All right, so we are going to be doing a series of videos to help you as parents and your children as our Da Vinci students learn how to use some of the resources that we have in our resource library, as well as just how to use everyday manipulatives in your home to help teach reading and math. So I decided today to start with multiplication because I feel like that is the main math issues that parents tend to have, where they want ideas of how to teach their kids multiplication, their kids are having trouble memorizing the facts or getting the concept. So multiplication, division, that kind of area, I decided to start with that. I also decided to start with showing you unifix cubes. I feel like unifix cubes are the bread and butter of any math, beginning math concept. You can use these for so many different concepts, all the way from preschool through 6th grade. And you just use them over and over again for different concepts. They do not break easy. They are colorful, and you can connect them and disconnect them and everything. Anyway, I use the Cuisinart, ETA Cuisinart unifix cubes. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them through our resource library, but honestly, if you plan on homeschooling your kids for a while, just get your own set. They're about $10 or $11 on Amazon, and then you just have them. You don't have to worry about whether they're in the library or not. So because these are your bread and butter of math manipulatives, I would just get your own set. So in multiplication, it is very important that your kids know the different signs for multiplication, and I would just teach them all from the get-go. Usually we're used to, when they first start to learn multiplication, they're used to just seeing the regular X for multiplication. And we need to also make sure we teach our kids what this symbol means. Okay? It doesn't mean, oh, we're just multiplying. It literally means groups of. So when I'm saying 2 times 2, which is what we typically say, we need to teach our children that this means 2 groups of 2. And if this was a 4, it'd be 4 groups of 2, not 2 groups of 4, which you can flip them. But if they're reading it correctly, going straight across, it's 4 groups of 2. And there's other signs that they need to learn, like this dot. This also means groups of. It's the same multiplication sign. And even though a lot of times this isn't introduced until a year or 2 after they start learning multiplication, I feel like it's never too early to start showing them, hey, these are the 3 different ways to show multiplication. There's the X, there's the dot, and then there's the parenthesis. And so if you have a number right up against a parenthesis, that means you're multiplying this by whatever's in the parenthesis. And that is important because they're eventually going to get into algebra, and they're going to have to be multiplying and factoring and all this kind of stuff. And so just from the get-go, just teach it. And that way they already have a head start on what to expect later when they hit those concepts and hit those symbols, and it's not so scary. So you do groups of. So I did 2 times 2 for each of them. So if we're starting with 2 times 2, it's you have to make 2 groups of 2. And so I would start them off, just say, make 2 groups of 2. Here's a group of 2, and here's a group of 2. How many are there? Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can have them count it like that, or have them count by 2s, 2, 4. The reason we teach them like this is because there's no point in teaching a kid a formula unless they understand why it works and what is behind it. A lot of times people have an issue with Common Core because they think, oh, they're teaching it in different ways. They're making us put it in arrays and all these things I don't understand. Just because it wasn't taught the way in the schools that we grew up in does not mean it is wrong. It just means that they're trying to take these math concepts that were so abstract to us when we were kids, and they're actually trying to make them make sense for kids and have them understand the why behind everything we did in math. It's not about memorizing the multiplication facts. You can't memorize them until you know what they mean. So this is 2 groups of 2. So one of the things they'll tell you to do in Common Core is, oh, show that in an array. All that means is you're doing it in rows. So this is an array of 2 times 2. You have 2 rows of 2, or you could go columns, 2 columns, 2 times 2. And if I was to make that, I could even do, to help my kids who maybe struggle with seeing all that colors and it gets confusing, maybe do 2 different colors so that they can see, oh, 2 groups of 2, or 2 groups of 2. And that can help out a lot. And I would make math about play when they're first learning multiplication. Have them count up, have them count by 2s. Sometimes it's easier to do like the 2 times tables, the 1s times tables. 0 and 5 and 10. Those are the easiest ones to start with, and a lot of times your math curriculums will start with those ones because they're easy to count by. And there's a lot of strategies for teaching the 3s, the 9s, and how those all work. And then, of course, when you get into divisibility rules later, which I will talk about in a different video. So have them practice making like random groups of like that. So let's say we had 5 times 4. So I'd make 5 groups of 4. And again, they can play with the colors. And so let me just grab 5 groups of 4 and just have them make that. And I would have them switch it around, have them start doing fact families even with these. So this is, oh, that's 4 groups of 4. So let me do another set here. Okay, here is 5 groups of 4. Now that's 5 times 4. Then have them take this, it'll be the same number of blocks, and they need to see that this will be the same number of blocks. Say, hey, can you, using only these blocks, make 4 times 5? Which is not the same, I mean, it's the same answer as 5 times 4, but it literally means 4 groups of 5 instead of 5 groups of 4. So then they take these same blocks, and the colors will get mixed up, of course, but you would say, oh, well, I guess I'll have to give one of these here. Here's a group of 5, and there's a group of 5, and here's a group of 5, and here's a group of 5. Oh, 4 times 5, or 4 groups of 5, has the same answer as 5 groups of 4. They had the same number of blocks if they both equaled 20, and they would count these up. They could count by 5s, 5, 10, 15, 20, and then you would have them count by 4s for the other one. But to just make them kind of switch it up and be playing, I think it's very important for kids to play in math, because then they can understand, oh, this is why. And when they get to those harder concepts, they'll be able to fall back on everything they touched and saw and played with. So it's not like, oh, what was that? What was I supposed to do again? I personally struggled when we got into the larger numbers and you had to do the traditional algorithm of like 24 times 16, and you had to do this and then carry and bring it down. I'll be showing you some different methods for how to do that as well as the standard algorithm, because as a kid, I couldn't memorize all of that. What do I do now? Because there's so many steps. And so sometimes it's easier for them to break it down first and play with manipulatives, and then maybe do multiplication in a couple different ways with the big numbers, and then get to your standard algorithm, or the standard way that we used to multiply using that. Like if it was 24 times 16, the 4 times 6, and then carry the 2, that kind of stuff that we learned. So look for other videos that'll show you different ways to show them that. But for now, get yourself some Unifix cubes and look for more videos. Thanks.